let's just have a quick look at some of the common communications cables. I just want to introduce the concept of cabling. The first cable is not data cable. The first cable is electric cable from 1930s, going back to history of engineering. This is the electrical cable that I took out of my house 5 years ago, the one I grew up in. It's, as you can see, incredibly high quality. It comes complete still with metal conduit. Highly safe. Not. I trimmed back the end here earlier. As you can see, it's got a cotton braid on the cable with one core. The earth was a separate cable. You can see that's not copper. That hasn't corroded. That's likely to be a nickel-coated copper or a nickel-coated steel cable. Looking at the end of the cut line there, it's copper. The braid is cotton. Inside the braid is rubber. I've just taken off some of the sheath and there's some old rubber that's perished. There's the cotton sheath or the cotton over material with the rubber inside and the current carrying cable. That was about the 1930s. At the same time in the 1930s, if I can, I'll put up a photograph of the telegraph line next to the railroad from where I grew up. The cables are separated by about 250 millimetres because as the current's flowing down a wire, there's something called Lenz effect, Lenz, L-E-N-Z law. If that's the current flow, that's negative to positive, so conventional current flows to negative, I create a magnetic field going that way around the cable. If I put another electrical conductor, so now let's look at it end on down, I've got a current going here. If I've got another one, it sees that changing magnetic field and it induces an electric field and there's electromagnetic interference between the two cables. In television, that's the first television cable. Once again, thanks to my parents that never threw anything out. When I cleaned out Mum's house, there it was. That is ribbon cable. That is what was used to transmit television signal from the aerial down to the television. There is physically a 10 millimetre separation between those two copper cables, just to minimise that electromagnetic interference. So, that's old school. You minimise the electromagnetic interference by putting a physical distance between the cables.